that after really doing a deep dive, I'm starting to see also. I figured Amit could provide, since he's a really good content creator, he's been prolific with it. Out of all the people, I think he would actually become way more bullish on Roku if she actually goes through what I saw. And maybe together we can see. What do you think, man? Do you think you're ready to ride the Roku train, or what's going on?
Ready to go to the mood on TV, OTT advertising? Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be one of those things. You'll see. All right. So
I'm
the first
excited
thing
for
is
the presentation.
Yeah. So the first thing is I wanted to just showcase an interview that the CEO had with someone on YouTube who's a content creator also not too long ago. And pretty much it just really breaks down what the value proposition of Roku is. And one of the things that I didn't really know before, and I don't know if you know, but did you know that at one point Roku was actually kind of a part of Netflix?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you're gonna find a lot of great information, and I think this is where we're gonna start. So let's get right into it. Let me just share my screen with you guys. Give me 1 second. All right. There we go.
We can't hear it.
Can you hear it? No?
Nope. Just maybe press save sound or share sound.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Man, I'm still learning how to do a lot of the streaming stuff. It is not easy. Like,
Not easy.
it's one of those things that you just have to one day at a time just work it and get it to.
It makes you respect Twitch streamers so much.
Yo,
you have to be entertaining and know how to do the technical stuff.
Let me tell you, it is one of the most challenging things to get everything just right. And
yo, how's my mic sound? It sounds better now? Sounds good?
Yeah, I think it's better.
It's a new mic.
Oh yeah? What is it? Which one is it?
No, I'm just BSing you. That's how I know you don't have a good ear. I'm just bullshit. Like, yeah, I got a good mic. It looks like a good mic, right? It looks like a perfect mic. I should just hold this the whole time and see how people think. It's a great mic. Great mic. Sachin is here. Both are well groomed today. Sachin, I'm not well groomed. I don't know. I can't get a haircut anymore because my haircuts are $25 and gas is now at $150. So I'm probably not getting a haircut for a while. I'm just.
All right, here we go. All loaded and ready to go. Show on the stream.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I want to dig in not only to what Roku is doing.
Can you hear that? Everything okay?
And it's a lot. But also your path to being one of these innovators in streaming. I mean, I think a lot of people probably don't realize that Roku itself has been around for like more than 15 years.
Yep, 2002, I think, started Roku. And Roku means six in Japanese. It's my sixth company.
Is that why it's called Roku?
That's the secret meaning to the name Roku.
What's 7 in Japanese?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're not planning another company.
I don't know Japanese,
You're going to be here a while. What was it in 2002? Because it wasn't broadband streaming because we didn't have broadband.
Right. So I started Roku to build, just with the general idea that the internet was going to become, bigger for media consumption and media distribution. That digital products would be a big market, and so we started to build sort of digital media internet connected products just generally. Our first product was in 2002 was for high def television. So when high def TVs first came out, there was not a lot of high def content. So we built a high def photo, and we called it live art player, so you could put art on your brand new high def TV, and that did well in that market. Then we did streaming audio players. Then we did digital signage players, which were very successful, and we ended up spinning that out eventually into another company called Brightsign. And then we did the first Netflix player in 2008, and that became a great product, and that's what we built our business on since 2008.
How did the connection with Netflix come about?
Well, I'd known Reed for a while, and I was always trying to convince him to let Roku make a Netflix streaming player. This was back when they were just doing DVDs by mail, and I was with mixed success. And then I ended up, actually, it's a long story, but the short version is, I ended up...
We got a little time.
We got time. So I decided to, they started looking for a VP of Internet internet TV, and I was running Roku, and I decided, well, if they're not going to let Roku make a streaming player, I'll help them do it. And so I worked out this deal with Reed where I worked at Netflix as their VP of Internet TV, and I still ran Roku as well.
Okay.
So Roku was had been around for a few years, was still selling our streaming audio players and our digital signage players, which were doing great. And then I kind of had this side job at Netflix where I built their internet TV team, which at that time consisted primarily of building a hardware box they were going to call the Netflix player. But I also started the licensing business where we would license the Roku service to companies like Xbox. Both projects went really well, but then ultimately Reed decided, well, since the licensing is going well, we don't need to be in building this hardware player. And so then he decided, well, we're not going to do that. So why don't we spin that out? And you've got this company Roku, so why don't we spin it out into Roku, and you can finish it up and ship it as a separate company. And
so you basically incubated Roku's future business model inside Netflix while you were still running Roku.
Yeah, so that's right. That's basically what happened.
Did Reed and Netflix end up with a significant...
Chris, you're muted.
So one of the things you can already see is this guy is visionary, right? He saw things way before a lot of people. Like broadband wasn't even a thing back then, and this person said that, you know what, there's actually a market for this. So he started very early in this development cycle of Roku, right? Roku's been around since the year 2001, 2002, very similar to how Alex Karp was, right, when it came to Palantir. So you look at certain CEOs, they just have this innate thing where they're building products that people don't even know that they need yet, right? Alex always keeps saying that. Same thing with Elon Musk, right? You look at a CEO and the product that they're about to create, because essentially they're founders, they're building products that, number one, don't exist yet. This guy saw the value of streaming TV way before anyone else. I mean, it literally was the first one to do it. And he was actually one of the people that helped Netflix pivot away from the DVD as a mail model and actually took on the challenge of getting it into the hands of people, right? So I think right there is one of the things that's kind of really impressive to me, is that the leadership at Roku isn't just some off-the-shelf guy like trying to sell a product, right? He is a visionary, and that's a really key thing. And I think this is something that's very similar to Palantir, that, you know what, you have a visionary leader who's executed. And this guy, this is his sixth business. This is not his first. So he's a serial entrepreneur, right? Has a lot going for it. But what's also exciting is what they're going to talk about next. So stay tuned for this. Let's keep going. Do you have any questions so far, Amit?
Nope. I mean,
so far it's interesting, right?
So far it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Can stake in Roku as part of that, or kind of how did all that work out?
Well, they spun that team that I built to build a Netflix player out into Roku, and then they invested some money into Roku, and they got some shares as part of that. But then I think later on, Netflix sold those shares to one of our venture capitalists, so they haven't owned any equity in Roku for a long time.
Let's talk about Roku today and how it's different from all the various options that people have for how to stream content. I mean, there's Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, various Chrome sticks and dongles and boxes. There are internet-connected TVs from Samsung, etc. And then there are Roku's a whole family of ways to connect, including Roku TVs and dongles from Roku, etc. How do you, and I didn't even mention Amazon, but there are lots of others. How do you define Roku's difference between all of these other ways to get content?
Yeah, so Roku is the leading streaming platform in the US by a wide margin. We stream a lot more hours than any of our competitors. And the way I think about Roku is we are a platform for distributing content in the modern internet world. And we distribute our platform a bunch of different ways. So you think about what's our business model? Well, the first part is we have to distribute our platform, build scale of our platform. And we've got about 20 million active accounts at this point. In Q1, that grew 47% year over year. And then we monetize that platform. So how do we build scale of that platform? We sell players. That's how we got into the business. We shipped the first Netflix streaming player. We shipped the first app store for television. We shipped the first streaming stick. And we've been competing with companies for a long time, these other companies for a long time. I mean, Apple had Apple TV before we shipped the first Netflix player, for example. Though back then it had a hard drive in it. You know, and Android actually licensed Android TV to TV companies before we started licensing the Roku OS to TV companies. Although today we have almost the entire market for licensed OSs. So
why is that?
So why is that? That's because we've built a platform for streaming television, whereas our competitors have all built platforms for mobile and imported them to TV. So we built, Roku actually has the only operating system.
Muted.
You're so right, man. Like I said, I got to figure out streaming a little bit better. But I think what he just said is very important, right? Right off the bat, he said, we are a platform company. We're not just trying to build one or two things. We're trying to build out an ecosystem, right? Anytime you have companies that are building out ecosystems, you have this almost like a model for growth that's like built in, where you have all these network effects that kind of come in. The other thing that I really like that he's about to explain a little bit more detail into is that things are purpose built. When you have something that's purpose built, you're building it specifically for a target audience. This is not one of those things where they're like, oh yeah, you know what, we have a phone operating system, we're going to port that over to TV, or we have another type of operating system, and they are building this operating system specifically for the TV market. One of the things that people really, I hope they realize, is that, you know, everyone has two things, no matter where you go and which home you go to. One is a cell phone, and two is a TV. I mean, I'm sure you have multiple TVs around your home. I have like 3 at home right now, right? So anytime that you're thinking about it, think of Roku as like a platform, right? And then all the stuff that goes with that. So I'm going to let him explain a little bit more why the platform approach is really important, but also at the same time of purpose-built platform, because that's going to be the key thing that's going to drive us into the future not us, but drive Roku into the future when it comes to TV streaming. And I know right now there's a TV streaming market. It's huge right now, but guess what? They are capturing market share. And we'll go into that a little bit more after the interview.
Purpose-built for television. And that's what happens. I mean, if you take a step back and just think big picture, you know, when we monetize that platform in the US by a wide margin, we stream a lot more hours than any of our competitors. And the way I think about Roku is we are a platform for distributing content in the modern internet world. And we distribute our platform a bunch of different ways. So you think about what's our business model? Well, the first part is we have to distribute our platform, build scale of our platform. And we've got about 20 million active accounts at this point. And in Q1, that grew 47% year over year. And then we monetize that platform. So how do we build scale of that platform? We sell players. That's how we got into the business. We shipped the first Netflix streaming player. We shipped the first app store for television.
Sorry, I'm going to skip ahead.
Stick.
I'm just going to skip ahead. I accidentally clicked back a little bit by accident.
Screwing up today.
I know, man.
On new hardware platforms. So if you go back, for example, to PCs, well.
So this is the part. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry for everyone on the stream. My bad.
Before PCs, there were mainframes and there were operating systems for mainframes. Well, PCs became their own its own computing platform. Mainframe operating systems didn't make that transition. They didn't become the operating system for PCs. Windows became the operating system for PC. And when phones became their own computing platform, Windows didn't make that transition. I'm guessing you're not running Windows on your phone. Android purpose-built for phones, and iOS also purpose-built for phones, won that transition. And then if you look at smart TVs, which are becoming our computing platforms, getting their own licensed operating system, those phone OSs have almost no market share, whereas Roku has a lot of market share because we've built a purpose-built platform for TV. So then people ask, okay, well, what does that mean, purpose-built for TV? Well, it means things like TVs are a brutally cost-competitive business. So we built a software platform that's designed to give great performance on very low-cost hardware, and that's critical. That's why we, for example, have a $29 Roku streaming player at the lowest price point, yet still actually make a positive gross margin, where our competitor is all subsidized to come within striking distance.
So you make money on that $29 device because you designed and built the software for TV. It's not bloated and so much that you have to build more expensive hardware around it to get it to run.
Exactly. That's right. And then also other examples are the ad model. Like ads are super important in the TV business. It's a lot of the revenue for TV content companies comes from ads. So we build ads, targeted ads, the ability to do ads into the Roku ad framework, which is sort of a first-class citizen of our operating system. And there's other examples, but all of them are around the fact that we built software for TVs first.
What's the next big shift? Maybe cultural, maybe technological, that's going to change the way we experience what today we're calling TV.
All right, Amit. So this is where we're going to start off first in our conversation when it comes to Roku's market potential, right? Before going into the future of it, let me just get you up there as well. Sorry. Man, I really have to be better about learning how to do this thing. It's so hard. I'm still learning. Yeah. So one of the things that we have right now is Roku has a tremendous amount of market share all over the world, but majority of its market share is in the US. About 41% of the entire market share for streaming services in the US, in the US is controlled by Roku right now, right? There's a lot of partners that Roku also has from TV manufacturers that basically have preloaded Roku installed on it. So if you remember, like back in the day, when you were buying a computer, right? Like let's say you bought a Dell. What came with the Dell? Like you didn't load any operating system yourself. It just came right on, Windows came right on it, right? So Roku essentially does the same thing where there's a ton of operating systems for the TVs, and a lot of them are proprietary. Man, I had originally pulled up all the market shares and all those tabs before, but I have lost them now. So let me just put this one up real quick.
While you're doing that, I'll just talk. It's interesting hearing this guy talk more in depth. I did not know about him. I saw him on a quick take on earnings when the stock price got decimated, and he was talking about ads, and that's my first impression of him, and I got annoyed because I was like, why are we talking about ads? Like, gotta talk about something. But I understood the platform approach a while back when I started looking at Roku. I didn't understand the biggest insight I got from this interview is the platform built for TV. And the example being that TV is a cost competitive business. You have to have a platform that integrates with that. The box has to be able to get you some margin because it's competitive to actually get those boxes to be integrated with all these different types of manufacturers. That's interesting. That I've never heard of in terms of their optimization.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing is their market share is actually growing exponentially.
Yes, that's true.
Let me just share my screen real quick. Share. All right, here we go.
We still got the YouTube video.
Oh, yeah. Let me just. All right, so you can see here from the last about, about 7 years, they've maintained a healthy market share over all the streaming in the US right now. The important thing about this right here is that as time goes on, the pie is getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, right? The amount of smart TVs that were sold in 2015 versus the amount of TVs that are sold in 2021, and it was able to kind of keep its market share relatively the same. There are up and coming other platforms that people have, like Fire TV and Apple TV, but they have never been this consistent in terms of market share. The other thing that I also wanted to show was this right here, and this was what the market share of web TV OSs are around the world. Now, one of the things you'll see here is that for the most part, outside the US, Roku doesn't really have too much. In the US, it has about 37% market share. In the rest of the world, it's actually not as meaningful, right? Now, a lot of people may say this and say, well, that just means that the product is not good. No, it just means that, guess what? It's not out there as much yet. One of the things that you'll see is whether you go to certain parts of Asia, even certain parts of Africa and everything, and South America, broadband is only now starting to become a really, really big thing, right?
They still have cable boxes where you're flipping through channels and stuff, right?
Yep, exactly. And so that's a key, this is a key driver, because as more and more people get broadband, they're going to be buying smart TVs with platforms already built in, right? These smart TVs with platforms already built in, now you're going to be able to access all this stuff that happens. And guess what? Roku, if it is able to maintain its market share, right, of TVs sold, then you're going to have that. So before they had dongles, right, where you would take a Roku dongle, you would put it into the TV, but now they're also partnering with a lot of TV manufacturers. These TV manufacturers, these OEMs, give Roku almost like first user access into your home, right? The other thing is, if you see the total number, look at how many there are all around the world, right? There's like so many different little ones. What's going to happen is over time, you're going to see a consolidation of OSs, right? The ones that have the highest market share will eventually survive, and the other ones are going to die out. Some of the other companies right now have proprietary versions for themselves. Like Samsung has their own version, LG has its own version. Even like some of the smaller ones, like outside the US, they have their own versions of operating systems. But the thing is, to maintain this and to make sure that everyone is using it's really hard. That's why, if you remember back in the early 2000s, how many types of operating systems were on the phone, right? And now we only have two. We only have Android and we have iOS. So I think these things are going to start to kind of consolidate. And the other thing is, Roku built this platform with a lot of like really tailored hard. Well, how do I say it? Its software is tailored towards the TV, where it doesn't cost that much to even manufacture and load this on a TV, where Apple actually requires a lot higher standards. So one of the things that one of the reasons why a lot of manufacturers like working with Roku, right, is their operating system is really easy to put on the TV versus like an Apple TV or even an Android TV, right? That saves these TV manufacturers a lot of money. And the thing is, if you look at the TV market, the margins are like razor thin. So even like a 2, 3, even 5% savings in terms of integrating a new operating system or maintaining your own operating system means huge revenue for them. I mean, huge profit margins for them, right? So I
And
think
these manufacturers have to have an OS on their TV, right? Otherwise, they're not a smart TV.
Exactly. It would just be a dumb TV like back in the day. Sure, you could buy like a Roku and add that on. But the thing is, like, why would you? Why wouldn't you want something that's fully integrated into your TV set, right?
Right.
So that's another value proposition for them. And I think this is the perfect time to kind of step into the next phase of growth for them, because I think they're starting to get to the point right now where they're doing a lot of international expansion. They just partnered with a few OEMs that primarily focus in Mexico. They are actually the number one operating system for TVs in Canada, right? A lot of people don't know that. And around the world now, they're starting to expand out, right? So they're starting to take market share. They're working with OEMs who have connections all over the world. And as more and more TVs grow, right, like more people get smart TVs, especially in underdeveloped and developing countries, right? You're going to see the proliferation of smart TVs everywhere, right? So not only is Roku gaining market share, but it's also gaining because the total pie of smart TVs is growing every year, right? And I think eventually, by the time we're in 2030, every TV is probably going to end up being a smart TV. Like, I doubt anyone is going to buy a TV without some sort of smart OS built in. I mean, could you imagine yourself buying a TV right now without a smart OS on it? Whether that be Roku, Android, anything, right? So I think that's one of the big value drivers that I see, is that international expansion, where you see, like right now, 49% of the current market share in, let's say, Asia is Android TV. Well, how much market share can Roku bleed away from Android TV around the world? And I guess that's what's going to be left to be seen. The next segment.
One thing. Let me say one thing real quick to Owen in the chat. He says anything that sets them apart from the competition, because he missed the first 20 minutes. The core thing that we're at in conversation right now is that the operating system, and this is what I'm getting because this is my first deep dive into them as well. Thanks to Chris for setting this up. The operating system of Roku is optimized for smart televisions more than any other operating system. The quick example to make sense of what that means at a material level is Apple TVs have a level of hardware that or Apple software is a level of pristine software that is not capable to just be on every Samsung, LG type of TV. TV markets have razor thin margins. So if they're even able to save a little bit on their margins because the operating system that they have to have on the TV, which is where this gets full circle, the TV has to be smart, saves them, and it saves them profits and is optimized for the hardware, which Apple, Amazon Fire Sticks are not optimized for every OEM TV's hardware. And that means Roku becomes the default choice, even if it's a crappier version of software, which it's not, which is the other big thing as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's
so to answer Owen's question, this is an OS thing way more than a hardware thing.
Yep. Yep.
The operating system has to be optimized for all of these smart TVs in order for these TV manufacturers to make a profit.
Video streaming entertainment.
Well, I think there's a lot of things changing as TV moves to streaming. The main, I think the big thing that's changed is competition. Before streaming, there was not a lot of competition in TV. I mean, there was some competition, but cable companies only had a couple hundred channels. Only certain big networks had access to those channels. Streaming allows any company to publish content to a television. That's why anyone can make a streaming channel for Roku. You don't have to be CBS or try a streaming channel. So competition is driving the innovation in streaming, and that's resulting in things like more content, lower cost, more choice for consumers. I think some of the changes we're going to start to see, one of the reasons Roku has been successful is there's over 6,000 different apps on Roku, or we call them streaming channels.
Yeah.
But that's a hard way to find content in so many apps. I remember when someone at Apple once said the future of TV is apps. Well, actually, the future of TV is not apps, because people are tired of looking in 6,000 apps for content. So I think one of the next evolutions in TV is how do we make it easier for consumers to find content when there's so many different publishers of content.
How do we?
Now, well, we have something called the Roku Channel, which is it's just a free ad-supported movies and TV shows, but we just also added live news. We're going to keep adding more and more content. It's the sandbox where we bring content and make into a content-first user interface, make recommendations, use our data platform, our machine learning platform to sort of find content and recommend it to customers. And so we think things like the Roku Channel will become the way content publishers end up publishing on platforms like
And is it like an actual channel? Or is
it's
it
right here.
Yeah,
Look at
there
that.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an actual channel.
Sitting down for Fort Knox.
I think the big...
You're on mute.
So this is very interesting, right?
I have some thoughts about this, but you can go first.
So the first thing that I thought about, believe it or not, was you, right? With your platform that you're doing with your startup, Audia, right? It's one of those things that you can't necessarily search for a certain type of content, right? Whether it be long form, short form. And then the question is, how do you monetize? Like right now, if you go to a smart TV, right, you would have to go in and go to YouTube and then access YouTube, right? And then look for things on YouTube, and then things will get suggested to you. You would watch it, you might see an ad or two, right? But the thing is, like, imagine right now, you can have a channel, right? You want to create a channel. You want to call it, let's say, the Amit Kukreja channel, right? You want to constantly publish different things on it. Let's say you wanted to do different things that you've done over the last maybe 5-10 years, right? And you play it. People can watch it, and it's ad supported, right? Right now, Netflix doesn't do that. Android doesn't really do that, except for if you do it through through YouTube, right? So there are tremendous amounts of opportunities where you can actually optimize your streaming / your viewing based on that. And this targeted ad model is going to be huge. That's why if you look at the CNBC thing, he says like, oh, you know what? One of the things that we want to do is focusing on ad revenue. And that ad revenue is growing day by day. I thought, you know what, there's a thing in investing called try, I think it's called something called try your own dog food, right? You want to taste it, put it in your mouth. So I went to Roku TV. I don't have a Roku, by the way. I went to Roku, and one of my friends does, I borrowed his. And I just, I was like, oh, let me try this out. And one of the things I realized that one, it was a really easy user experience, like very easy to use. It didn't take too much learning, right? But then I went to the Roku TV channel and I saw that they had a lot of things on there, even movies and stuff. Yeah, some of them were ad supported, right? But guess what? Sometimes I don't want to pay like $5.99 for a movie. I just want to watch. I was watching Armageddon. I didn't mind watching a couple of commercials here and there. Every other platform, either it wasn't on Netflix, it wasn't on Amazon Prime. Roku had it for free. I had to watch a few ads, but whatever, I watched them, and it was a great experience. The other thing that I really liked is that they were neutral. And I know that sounds weird, but they did not try to suggest me things. Like, so I looked up a movie and I went through the list, and it actually lets you what is that thing called? Buy the movie on the platform of your choice. So I looked at all the prices. So Amazon Prime had a movie for like $3.99. Another streaming platform had it for like $1.99. Another one had it for $5.99. So I went to the cheapest one. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm locked in. Right now, if you buy a Fire TV, what do you think they're going to suggest you? They're going to suggest you Amazon Prime. And then they're going to say, would you like to buy this movie with the specific price, right? With Roku, you can find a movie and then pick which vendor you want to go with. So this is another thing that just goes right into it, where I think a lot of people who want to monetize their content, who want to create content, and who want to stream it constantly and have it supported by ads, they're going to be able to do it, right? And I think eventually we get to the point where you're going to reach 100 million, 200 million customer accounts that have Roku. It just goes right into feeding that giant platform. I'm going to go.
Hold on. So we gotta push back on this because what you're describing is not revolutionary. What you're describing to me is YouTube.
Yeah.
Like this whole idea of Amit, you can start a channel, publish what you did over the past 5 years. I do that on YouTube, and YouTube, which I haven't heard you speak about. This Roku thing, I don't see some magic algorithm that's getting me Midwest Cannabis and Owen to find my content, and you like, I need you to go. I don't know. You're selling me this thing where like on the TV it's ads. I get it. The difference on YouTube is computer and phone, and this is the TV. I'm OTT being published on a Roku channel. My question is, who the hell is going to click on my video or on Palantir if I want to start a Palantir channel on Roku TV?
So right there.
Why is that revolutionary at all?
So here's the thing. Is there a Palantir channle on YouTube that specifically does nothing but Palantir stuff?
Yes.
Like literally streaming Palantir all the time. Not one video at a time, but let's say me, you, Tom.
Well, what's the benefit of that? What, a 24-hour stream? What, like on YouTube I can look at the videos and then make a decision. Why do I need some 24-hour streaming OTT Palantir?
Because some people want that, right? Like let's say you're talking about let's say a channel like Lifetime, right? Where you have a certain content like that's geared towards a niche market, right? Let's say you want to start a channel about, I don't know, dogs. Let's just say dogs, right? How to take care of dogs, whatever, puppy channel, right?
Okay.
Or Coco Melon. Here's a good example. You have these little kids channels, right? Sure, you could go to YouTube and find one that you like and then have them watch it, or you can just go straight to one that's streaming, right?
Or you go, but I don't get that, because the whole point of YouTube is you search, or TikTok, you search and you get a diversity of results, and you, the consumer, get to pick. And the creator that never was going to get your attention in a million years unless they showed up on those search results gets your attention. That's so like I don't get the bull case for why I need some dog streaming channel.
Like I said, some people are not going to be up for that. Some people just want.
That's the question. How many is the some people? How many is the some people?
I don't know. And that's the key. That this is why, and maybe let him explain a little bit more, Right now,
before we get into, because I'm trying to get on your point, right? Like I'm trying to see his vision. He's like, Roku channel, his argument is content publishers can publish through us. We do the ads. To me, that's like YouTube 45% ad splits. So I'm like, that's not that revolutionary. But what's revolutionary is it's OTT, and they have the platform, right? They're on every single TV in the world one day by 2030. So every content publisher can just publish on their platform to access distribution and monetization. But to me, that's literally YouTube with none of the benefits of YouTube, like an algorithm and search.
No.
Now,
they actually
YouTube
have
doesn't get
They actually have that. So that's one of the things that they're going to be competing on YouTube with, because as more and more people use their TV to like look at stuff, right? Like watch TV and stuff. It's finding out and it's tracking what your likes and your dislikes are. So it's able to kind of have targeted search towards you, right? Let's
But
say,
like that
yeah.
doesn't make sense, because the reason YouTube's algorithm makes sense is because you can access it immediately. Like you get on your phone for a couple minutes, they see a new video, you open it on your computer. Roku TV means you have to sit on your ass on the couch and be in the mood to watch TV, which means like how many times are you doing that? Forget a day, a week, to the point where the algorithm gets to know that much about you. And like, you know, a 5-minute video I can find tomorrow because YouTube knows so much about it because I use it every day. But you're not using Roku every day unless you're sitting on your ass and watching TV every day.
Someone said something really funny. Hold on one second. Roku is for the user who watches The Office on repeat compared to YouTube, who caters to individual creators.
I like the bull case of Roku being the operating system and being part of OEMs and all that stuff. But content discovery and distribution is happening on mobile, and content discovery on distribution outside of happening on mobile is happening through centralized networks that create algorithmic recommendations, and it's creator driven, meaning I trust like Meet Kevin's thoughts on the job report more than Jim Cramer, right? Like, and I'm not finding Meet Kevin on a big ass TV. I'm finding him on a little 1-minute clip on YouTube.
Yeah. And your point is taken. That's absolutely right. But there are still a significant amount of people that literally just want to go and watch a channel that's specifically geared towards a niche, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to disrupt YouTube by any means. I just think, like I said, as the pie grows, let's say you want to watch something, you can go right to the channel and just watch that specific thing without having to do any of the extra effort or the work. And the other thing, it's free, right? So let's say right now you have a set of content, like you want to create a TV show, right? And you want to just play it on there, or you want to aggregate all like a bunch of TV shows, and you want to call it, let's say, the Amit Kukreja TV channel. Well, guess what? You can do it, and you can monetize it, right? So right
who's
now,
gonna watch it? That's my question. Like, who the fuck? Why would? That's the algorithm is so important to me. I'm like, no one cares about the Amit Kukreja. Just like all these content publishers that use the Roku channel, who's gonna care about them? Like, YouTube has done such a and I keep bringing up YouTube because if we're thinking of content, I'm like, what platforms have done a job to get people to give a crap about your content? Like you and me, we got, I don't know, 40 people watching. We're just two random guys. 40 people actually give a crap about us on a Sunday night. Like, that's not happening through Roku. And that's where I don't feel the bull case as strongly, but I see your point.
Well, there is, like I said, this is a secondary thing to it. This is where this person sees the future, right? I don't necessarily 100% see it either, but like I said, there are other points that are worth, and maybe he'll say something during the rest of this that'll make a lot more sense. So let's.
The big thing that's changed is competition. You know, before streaming, there was not a lot of competition in TV. I mean, there was some competition, but you know, cable companies only had a couple hundred channels, only certain big networks, where we call them streaming channels.
Yeah.
Their data platform, our machine learning platform, to sort of find content and recommend it to customers. And so we think things like the Roku channel will become the way content publishers end up publishing on platforms like
Roku. Is it like an actual channel? Or
is it right here?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an actual channel on Roku, but as it gets bigger and bigger and has more and more content, you can imagine someday it might become the Roku home screen. We're also going to publish it off Roku as well. Like we announced that the Roku channel will be on Samsung TVs this summer as well.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, why would you do that? I mean, because you're trying to sell Roku. Why give Samsung the Roku channel?
Well, I think of Roku as a large-scale publishing platform. If you're a content owner and you want to publish that content and monetize it, we can do that for you. That's what we do. We distribute content. And a preferred way to do that is to be the operating system of your TV. There are some companies like Samsung that are probably not going to license our operating system. So taking the best of content on Roku, putting it in a channel, and putting it on those kinds of platforms is another way for our content publishers to get broader distribution for their content.
And then does Samsung pay you to carry the Roku channel? Do you become sort of like an HBO, a Showtime, a premium content offering that they're paying for, and you're kind of getting that revenue stream and maybe a share of the advertising, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, we haven't announced our business relationship with Samsung, but
that would be a great time.
That might not be the best time. But what I do think the trend is that we're going to see over time more and more aggregations of these big destination apps. And Netflix obviously is like, the original destination app. But I think that's what the Roku Channel is as well. And we're starting out from a different place, whereas, an app like, traditional OTT apps are subscription services. Actually, consumers of streaming also go to streaming because they want better value, right? They go because there's great content, and it's a better experience, but they also want better value. They want to pay less. And free ad-supported content is very popular on Roku, but it's an underserved market. There's not a good place to go to get, a single place to go to get an aggregated experience with lots of great free content. So that's where we're starting out with the Roku Channel, is trying to build a great aggregated experience of free content. But we think that over time, it'll be a big destination app like some of these other big destination apps as well.
Yep. So I'm gonna stop there.
I think the key thing there, I get the argument. I am potentially questioning this idea of the destination for content distribution, where people go to find their content, being Roku versus YouTube. Like, I see YouTube as a massive juggernaut here because they compete on content. I guess the differentiated part is Roku is OTT, so it's TV. YouTube is computer, phone. I mean, the TAM getting bigger means there's both room for both of them to play. But this whole idea of the Roku Channel, he's trying to frame it in like this content publisher type of friendly manner, which is like, hey, we're just the platform. We're optimized for TVs. We help TVs. We help Netflix. We help Samsung. We help everybody. Now we can help you get distribution. And yesterday I was hearing a woman who's a Russian journalist talking about how her channel on YouTube got 24 million views last month covering what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. I'm like, so is she getting those 24 million views on Roku in the future? That's what this guy thinks? Maybe. I don't know.
I think this is more like this is like almost like a cable cutter's dream, right? Like, there is still some value in like TV channels. I know people right now, they're still subscribed to certain TV channels that are live streaming, sometimes news channels that are like that. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, my dad loves like Indian TV shows, right? So, I mean, I'm sure your parents love your Indian TV shows.
We
right?
have a whole illegal box that they found somehow.
You're not supposed
you
to
know about this, right? It's the illegal box that gives you access to all of it, and they got it from some guy that everyone knows. Like, it's
yeah. Well, now if someone shows up at your house to grab the box, we had a box, we don't anymore. But essentially, let's say you want to take your channel, right, and you want to publish it all over the world now. Guess what? Instead of having to literally go and go to like the cable TV people and saying, hey, can you please put us on your lineup and be channel 555 or 985 or 2005, whatever. Just let us do the thing and let us put it on your platform like Roku. So guess what? Imagine right now your mom can just go to the Roku, go to like the channel that she likes, and there you go. Now all her stuff is there. And
or she can go on YouTube and search up the name of the show.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Is she going to do that? Is she going to search for a specific thing and a specific episode, or is she just going to just sit back and watch her 8:00 Friday night TV show that she normally does? And what about TV shows that are more like live, right? Like something like, I don't know, Wheel of Fortune or something, right? Or The Price is Right.
You mean like how we're live right now?
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point, bro. I don't get it. Like, maybe I'm too bullish on YouTube, but like, I get your point. A lot of Indian women are not going to go on YouTube and search, but a lot of 440 million people, I think, in YouTube in India use YouTube. Like, YouTube is India's biggest market. Or India is YouTube's biggest market. So like, this idea of people not searching, people going on their TV and then finding it on the Roku channel, it only makes sense to me if you're in the mood to sit down and watch TV, which there's a big market for. I mean, a lot of people sit on their butts and watch TV, but the idea that it's a destination for people to find and discover content. You're competing with TikTok now. Yeah, like Netflix doesn't really compete with TikTok outside of competing with attention, because Netflix is not helping you discover anything. Like, you go to Netflix because it's supposed to be this premium experience. You're sitting down, you're with a girl, Netflix and chill, right? You're not Netflix and chilling on you're not TikTok and chilling. So it's a totally different perspective. But on TikTok, I'm discovering so many people. It's a content destination for discovery. Mm-hmm. That's what this guy is trying to make it sound like Roku is. And I'm not sipping the Kool-Aid on that yet.
Yeah. Well, it is one of those things that I think that this is something that he envisions in the future, right? I'm not necessarily thinking that it's going to be the next big thing just
No,
yet.
but you can't. No. You can't say you envision like we like Palantir envisioning stuff in the future because we know that there's a logic behind it happening. I don't see the logic in envisioning a Roku channel being a content destination for publishers in the future when there's no algorithmic discovery for that stuff. There's no search oriented stuff. It's not on your phone. It's not on your like phones and computers are not going away anywhere. Like so I don't get what you mean by vision for the future. Vision 2001 for streaming and DVDs going away and there being a box, yes, visionary. But now, where's the vision?
Yeah.
Right? Like YouTube is the visionary stuff now.
Yeah. Let me just share one other thing. And this is just their growth metrics and stuff. So as an investor, this is what Cathie probably sees and why she's bullish on it. Let's see. But you're really tearing up the argument pretty hard right now, which is good. Which is good.
And not because I want to, because I mean, if I find another stock I'm bullish on, I can make more content on it. It's good for me. I want to be bullish on more stocks. I'm researching deeply on more stocks and companies to get into as deep as I am into Palantir. But Roku,
you just don't see it. You don't see it.
I don't see content discovery happening on a TV box. No, that's not happening. No.
All right. So this is right now. This is key metrics for 2021. Basically, you can see the total number of accounts are actually growing pretty well. You know, they gain over 10 million different subscribers right now. The number of streaming hours, so literally everyone is watching a lot of the stuff that's already on there. What I really like and I thought was very fascinating was their ARPU, right? So the average revenue per user. Roku pretty much makes money on not just like the ads, but also by licensing its software to the TV manufacturers.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, if you look at like the remote, right? Like, you ever noticed how there's only like a limited space on the remote, maybe like 4 things that you can go to that are direct, like Netflix or Amazon Prime or blah blah blah, right? It gets paid by Netflix and by Amazon to basically be on the remote, right?
Uh-huh.
It also gets paid where it's placed on the smart TV in the home screen when you pull it up. So if it's like, you know, if it's right at the top and the content is right at the top, you're more likely to watch it and subscribe to it, right? That's another area of revenue for them. The other thing is when people sign up for other streaming services from Roku, like the Roku TV, it gets a cut of that. So basically, if you subscribe to Netflix because you know it's on the Roku TV, you get a cut of that. So all that stuff adds right back into its revenue again. One of the things that you'll notice here is that it used to make a lot more money in its platform. I mean, not a platform, in its player revenue. So basically, you know, the Roku box. You can see here almost 178 million came from that. It actually decreased to about 161 million. But if you look at the revenue that it generated from its platform that's supported by ads and supported by all the other things I just said, it's growing at a very healthy margin, right? They're willing to take a little bit of a loss up front on the hardware to actually make much better returns and much more gross profit in content. The other thing that they've been starting to talk about recently is actually creating their own streaming content, right? That they can.
Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. Don't tell me they're gonna make original content because that's the easiest thing in the world, making content.
They bought. Remember, this probably goes against them, not really for them, but they bought that company Quibi. I don't know if you remember.
They bought Quibi?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I should know this. Roku buys Quibi?
Yeah.
I mean, they probably got a great deal on it because Quibi was
garbage.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, now I will never touch this stock. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
They saved Quibi. Save as in, you know, save is loosely, but
yeah.
No, I don't ever bring up original content to me because original content, Netflix can barely grow and they are pumping billions into phenomenal original content. So I've you know, you need a creative studio to be able to do that. I don't think Roku is partnering with those creative people
right
at the level that we think.
Now, the reason why the stock took a really big tumble from its $500 a share is because they pretty much showed that they actually tempered down their growth metrics for 2022. So if you see their outlook, it's actually a lot lower than what a lot of people are expecting in terms of growth. And I think that's one of the things that really sunk it over the last quarter, but it's still growing really fast. And I think this is what Cathie Wood is essentially seeing. So she's essentially now trying to say, well, you know what? There's this platform company. It's growing really fast. It's got better value proposition than Palantir does. And it is net. It does have net profit right now.
Yes.
It doesn't have a lot of net profit, but it is net profitable. The other thing is the market cap is really low. It's still only a $15 billion market cap right now. So, yeah. That's pretty much the bullish case on Roku versus Palantir. I am at this point, I'm pretty sure I have not shaken your resolve for Palantir.
Not for Palantir. I was looking to be bullish on Roku after this presentation. Are you buying any Roku after this? After your research?
I'm not. I'm not.
Why not? Why not?
Because I think that there's a lot of execution risk that you have to consider in order to get there. One of the things that I prepared on my slideshow, which I accidentally closed out when I was trying to load and fidget everything. Number one is Android TV is doing really well. Android TV
is Android TV. I don't know. Can you explain that? What is that? What's
Android TV? It's what Google has, right? So Google has a purpose-built OS for televisions also, and they call it Android TV, right?
And they're probably pushing YouTube when you open the homepage on that, right?
That's right, absolutely. So that's one of the biggest negatives for Roku, that they have a competitor like Google on their heels. The other thing that really sucks for them is Google can lose more money than anyone else. Like right now, Roku cannot burn that much cash. So an example is not only can Google pay these TV not only can Google give you licensing on these TVs, it can actually pay the TV people to say, hey, if you include Android TV on your TV, we'll give you $50 or we'll give you $25, right? Imagine that. So imagine how much. So you think the TV makers are going to say, oh yeah, let's get Roku, which is for free, or we get $25 for including Google on ours.
Now, the user experience has to be good, right? Otherwise, the TV manufacturers don't want to give people a bad experience. So, like, that's where I guess the differentiation lies. But yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
So, and Google already has such a big market share. It's hard to beat Google. The one downside for Google is that I think a lot of times people have to consider Google almost like becoming a giant monopoly all over the world. Right? Like, dude, it's already on everyone's phones. It's already on everyone's browsers. Now it's going to be on people's TVs. Like, bro, if they make a car, it's going to be in your car. Dude, Google is that giant Death Star that's literally out there eating everything. So I probably made better case for Google than I did for Roku in this scenario. But Cathie Woods believes that Roku actually has a lot of future growth ahead of itself, and that it is going to be one of the dominant OS platforms for the TV. And at the end of the day, I think even Google wants to see Roku to some degree grow also, because if they don't and Google becomes the default operating system everywhere, what ends up happening is now you have legislation that may come saying, hey, you need to break up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of weird, but you have to sometimes save your competitors just so that you can not seem like a monopoly, which it is. The other thing is one of Roku's biggest TV manufacturing partners recently signed a deal with, I think, Amazon, to have Amazon TV, like Fire TV, loaded on their platform. I mean, on their TVs, because Amazon probably paid them, to do it.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that right now Roku is going to run into a lot of headwinds. So there is a really big downside to it, and a lot of people have sold off Roku because of that.
But so why when Roku ran up to like 400 or something, that was just pure speculation, or did they have the numbers to support that run up?
If you look at its growth, it's actually been beating on earnings like crazy. Like, that's one of the things that Let me just
while you pull it up, let me read some comments. Midwest said he canceled Netflix the other day. That's also my thesis for why Roku's like is not that, because if you're not getting good content from them, then Roku's not getting a cut of those subscriptions. Owen says, can Roku get bought out? I don't know. I don't think Roku's one of the. Cathie Woods is not buying it for a buyout, right? Like none of the ARK Innovation Funds stocks, in my opinion, are supposed to get bought out. They're supposed to become big companies, because if Roku gets bought out, it's like at what share price? And if it's not at 400 or 500, there's not even a 2-3x return.
Yeah,
she's buying it at 100.
So if you look at its quarterlies, it literally killed earnings per share that a lot of people are predicting, right? So in terms of EPS, 500%.
You're not sharing. You're not sharing.
Oh, sorry. Show screen. So in just terms of earnings, they had consistent beats over the last 4 quarters. So you can see beat by 500%, beat by 300%, 600%, 390%. So there is a lot of beating in terms of earnings that are going on. But
no one cares about EPS, right? That's the
I don't know, man. Wall Street cares. That's why
they don't. They're missing on revenue, which it seems like Wall Street cares more about that. EPS, I heard, is the thing that no one gives a crap about in investing, supposedly.
And
ARK owns 5% of it. Wow. 5% of a
trying to
dog
load this up.
Channel.
Come on. So right now, almost 80% of institutional investors own Roku.
You mean 80% of the float is owned by
Yes, 80% of the float is owned by institutional investors.
So how did it drop from 400 to 100? Like how does that happen then?
Growth trajectories. One, there was a huge run up in the price itself, so valuations were really out there, right? So it got to the point where right now the valuations there make sense. The other thing is now you have a bunch of margin compression, right, because of higher interest rates. So all tech companies are taking a beating right now. That's why Roku took a huge hit, right? And a lot of that growth, when they reported the fourth quarter, they kind of guided lower than a lot of people were expecting. So when you have like lowering of guidance, that does not fare well for you.
Yeah.
So over the last, I think 6 months, a lot of investors have got some realizations on their hands, and now they're starting to kind of realize that, hey, maybe this wasn't the thing that we all expected. But if you look at what it was like, it reached at one point almost like 479. Now it's down to like 121 again. It's a $16 billion market cap. It's got pretty good amount of cash on its balance sheet right now. So it's a healthy market. It's not going to go out of business, but the growth may be a lot more tempered than people think, but it is generating income. It is generating net income. So
Cathie has to be right on this, because Roku is number 1 or number 2 in let me just check that real quick, because I need to know this by now. ARK Innovation.
I don't know, man. I stopped following Cathie a little while ago. I don't really look into her.
I still follow her, man. I'm not following her. She's,
the reason why I looked at Roku was because she sold Palantir to buy Roku. So I had to figure out what is the reasoning behind it. So what she sees is better growth potential on Roku with a higher level of valuation in the next 5 years. Remember, they're a 5-year outlook company, not a 10-year maybe outlook company. Because I think in 10 years, Palantir will definitely outshine the hell out of Roku.
Roku, she owns 6 point. It's number 3 in her fund. So she's betting that, as Tom Nash referred to Brett Wonton, the director of research. Yo, that was so fun. I saw that tweet. He's like, Brett Wonton. I was like, yo, this is hilarious. That's so funny. So he's betting that Brett and all the other guys and girls in ARK have found this hidden gem that's going to be the modern operating system, not for the enterprise through data analytics and AI, but for OTT ad spend, where people will get discovered for their content on this 24-hour live channel through streaming. When people are sitting back and watching TV, out of all the things they're going to watch the Roku content destination hub or the Roku premium homemade content. They're betting that all their research came together and decided that this stock that they have $780 million in is going to be the winner.
Yeah.
And they might be right in that, but
there are other people who do believe that, Roku is just it's just not there, like in terms of like growth, right? And I'm gonna share that with you guys real quick, and we can watch it together. Let me just show on the stream. And this was one of Roku's biggest bears. Who at
Called
this
this last November, so we got to give you kudos for that. Worse than you could have even expected. However, we've seen these shares lose about half of its value just this year alone. Do you think we're seeing the bottom now? How far does this extend?
It's funny. There's a quote by a basketball player named Michael Ray Richardson. When the Knicks were losing, someone said, to your question, where is this going? He said, the ship would be sinking and the sky is the limit. And we think that a lot here. The problem you have is that there's no valuation support at all, right? The company is locked in a battle with 3 or 4 major, competitors, and they have to spend in order to try to win. So I don't see valuation support here. So we try to put a price target of about $100 on it. But the reality is their guide on revenues looks really optimistic. And if they miss again on revenues, given the cost growth, you can keep falling. So the sky's the limit.
Or the bottom's the limit. Michael, exactly. When you think about a Roku, though, there has been chatter, especially when you see this kind of value wiped out, that it could be an acquisition target. And I wonder, you say that it's in such a competitive space. It's very true. What is the technology that Roku has that you think maybe a potential acquirer would want?
Well, I think there are 2 things, right? So their operating system is good. We enjoy our Roku TV sets. They actually work really well, almost better than the ones we have from Samsung. So I hate to say that, but it's true in terms of Samsung users. And then the second thing is they have the Roku Channel. So they have an emerging AVOD business that's valuable. The problem you have is that the natural buyers, the Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, they can't buy Roku. There's too much antitrust. The media companies that we cover have all been slaughtered by their pivot to DTC. Look at Viacom stock price this week. Look at where Discovery is. They can't buy them. It has to be either a television manufacturer, maybe like a Samsung. And then Craig and I, Moffat and I were saying, maybe a Comcast, but Comcast would get really hurt as well if they bought this. So there's a very limited number of places where you can get M&A. Maybe it would be a television OEM that wants to accelerate their pivot to connected TVs. That's probably your best shot. Right. And the question is, can they do it themselves? Right. So I guess I made a knocking reference on Samsung's interface. Well, maybe with time and better engineers, they could fix that. So the question is, how much of a moat does Roku have? And is it worth buying them at this level or just waiting it out for the stock to fall further or to hire people from Roku to do the job?
Yeah, you spell this out pretty clearly in your note today. You say, as such, the stock will likely be orphaned until earnings revisions turn positive. And given the outlook here, that feels like a long time from now. What could a long time look like?
Well, Carl, that's to your questioning of the previous guest about like, what do you buy here? Like our view is in a rising rate environment, the only thing that works is earnings revisions surprising positively. Like having a company beat in earnings and getting better. I think the question that we raise is, look, they've guided to 35% revenue growth for the year, 25% revenue growth in the first quarter. Everyone's scared about the macro. Everyone's scared about the second quarter compares. I think, if they miss on their revenue number and the optimism of 35%, you'll have negative revisions for the next 2 or 3 quarters, right? So I think, to me, it's really about getting the revenue number right. Now that they've really killed our profitability, is getting revenues right, and then revenues we will be tracking advertising growth, SVOD ads. I mean, we have a pretty good way to track this, so give us some time, we'll come back to you. But I think, to me, it's that 35% revenue guide is, I think, fraught with risk, and that's how we see it.
So, what did you think?
All right, Chris, I gotta get out of here now. But yeah. Interesting stuff. Very interesting to see what's Roku. I want to do some more videos on Roku. I want to talk about it. We're gonna see what this stock is out there. What can it do?
Yeah, do your own research. See what you think, man. You specialize in content, so you know what's going to be, what's somewhat popular, somewhat's not. Maybe there's a bull case that I wasn't able to cover on here that maybe you can detect. And maybe this is the same bull case that Cathie Wood is thinking. But as of right now, I don't see it. Right? I tried to justify a lot of the bull case on it, and I don't see it. So I'm not going to be a buyer on it. But it just goes.
I think you did a great job on justifying the operating system for TVs because they have purpose-built TV software. The consumption of the content, that's what I don't see.
Okay.
Which might limit their growth.
You know what we should look at next time? Teledoc. Because I think...
Yeah, let's do one of these on Teledoc. Because people have been asking about it. And like,
I work in healthcare, so I could probably lend a little bit of a lot of inside knowledge to Teledoc, like what it is. And I'll give you just
how about we do this next Sunday, 10 p.m. Mark it on your calendars. Chris is going to make a Teledoc presentation. Let's go through Teledoc. Let's start talking.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, man. Well, it just goes to show, buy Palantir. Screw Roku. We couldn't convince Amit to pivot to Roku. So maybe Cathie, you got Roku, but Amit's not changing. So
not yet. We got to. Yeah. YouTube's too much of a juggernaut. We got to see it. All right, bro. I'm out.
All right,
talk to you guys
care,
later. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk more. Bye.